righty. All right. So, hey, Denise, how are you? Miss Denise Young?
What's up, Mr. Darryl James? I'm well. Thank you. How you?
Oh man, I'm so cold. I'm so cool. I can't stand it. It's just cold blooded. You
Oh, I
know.
love the old school. I love the old school. So what we got going on today?
So there's a whole lot going on with black people because everybody wants us to support them. They don't give a damn if we get supported. Everybody wants us to follow whatever agenda they set, whether it benefits us or not. And so, in order to accomplish those goals, sometimes they just gaslight us. They just try to just tell us, no, I'm holding up four fingers. How many you counting? Just all the trickery. So that's why I wanted to talk about gaslighting. I guess let's jump into it. The first one that I want to deal with is the alphabet community, the elemental P people. Yeah. So there's a whole thing now, and this basically is going to be tied into the filthy Democrats because there's a whole thing now where the trans people are going in the bathrooms with little girls. And I really feel strongly about it. That's a problem. You being a fully just still intact male, grown man, and you're in the bathroom with a little girl. That's a problem. And the other part, and then we can talk about the gaslighting. The other part is you have trans people who are doing reading sessions, they're doing lap dances, all this weird stuff, having discussions with children about sex and sexuality. So we're being gaslit by their community, but also by the Democrats. Their community is trying to pretend that it's okay. Children should be, it should be normalized for children to see this and have these discussions. For me, that's bullshit because children shouldn't be exposed to any kind of sexuality. If you're in first grade, you should be trying to figure out what crayon you're going to use. Don't color outside the line. You shouldn't be talking about homosexual, heterosexual, what you're sexual. You're in kindergarten, first grade, and really those kinds of discussions shouldn't be broached at least till like 16, and there should be some kind of permission from the parents. But in many states, they are already making trans whatever. I don't want to call it culture because it's not a culture. I mean, I'll be honest, and then we can get to the meat. Trans women, these guys who are pretending to be women, just like a lot of gay men, especially white gay men, they're just mocking black women. that's that's just what it is, all the snapping, the whatever. They're just mocking black women. And so if you are imitating someone else, then you don't have a culture. Imitation isn't a culture. But yeah, so the gaslighting comes with anytime you mention those two situations, you get people who say no, that's not happening. Literally on two posts, I had people do that to me. One where I was talking about how, and let me go over to the Democrats. One, I was talking about how the Democrats are pretending it's a Democrat versus Republican issue. And if you somehow have a problem with transgender people occupying spaces they shouldn't, then you're down with the conservatives. My thing is, I don't give a shit who you want to put me with. It's wrong. It's wrong. But on two different discussion posts on Facebook, I had people who just, they literally was like, no, that's not happening. I'm like, dude, I've posted pictures, I've posted videos. People are talking about it all over the country, and you want to say it isn't happening? Like, I mean, are you seeing this too? The gaslighting?
Yeah, I've Wow. I mean, I've certainly seen the videos, and I've seen, posts where people, are saying that there's nothing wrong with it, that these things aren't happening. Here's where I get a little bit confused, right? If I saw a heterosexual woman, and I'm using specifically the term heterosexual because I because I don't want to talk about the point in terms of heterosexual versus homosexual, right? But I'm pointing out heterosexual specifically. If
Right.
I saw a heterosexual woman enter a bathroom and I knew that there were some little boys, like let's say in a school, and I knew that there were little boys in the bathroom, that would concern me.
Yes. Absolutely.
And I use that
Yeah.
example specifically because I think what we have to understand, and this is where the gaslighting comes in, is that adults are capable across whatever you choose your sexuality to be, are capable of harming children sexually. And the
Yes.
thing is, we only ever want to assign that issue of harming children sexually to straight men.
Yeah. Yeah.
When in fact, all of us are capable as adults, as sexual creatures,
Right.
of harming children. And so, with that understanding, it really befuddles me that what we are not more concerned about is, hey, let's just not take any chances, right? Let's just not take any chances, and let's just safeguard our children to the extent that we can. You know what? Let's be overly cautious with our children. They're
Right.
worth it. They're absolutely worth it, and they deserve
Well,
it.
yes.
They deserve
Well,
it, because what we understand about sexual molestation, violating children, is that, like, this idea of recovery is not something that happens in, okay, 5 years of therapy, and they're fine. No, we understand that when these kinds of things happen to children, it puts them at risk for so many things,
right.
from mental illness to promiscuity to drug use to other at-risk behaviors like suicide. Like, it opens, I mean, an absolute Pandora's box for them. So I
Yes.
don't understand why we don't want to simply take the precautions and protect our children.
Well, and not only so we've done a 360 because society used to assume that anyone who would harm a child was automatically homosexual, right? But now we know that people who identify as heterosexual can still harm children. We know that now. In fact, there is no it's only this or only that. Like you said, it's across the board. We know that anyone who is adult, who is a sexual being, has the ability, the leanings of being a pervert. Then they're going to harm whoever is likely to be more susceptible, and that's going to be children. So the gaslighting is that group now pretending, because this dude in the comments on one of the threads went on and on about, no, it's not the trans people, they don't do that, it's the priests, it's this, it's that. And I'm like, yeah, it's all of them, but it's also trans men. We're not going to pretend that there's no, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it, and I know they might want to come after me, but you're already on some weird sexual shit if you are saying that your body and your mind don't match. That's already something is screwy. And so from that perspective, then I don't want you to be in a situation where a vulnerable child can be exposed. You walking into a bathroom where there's a little girl who now has to see your penis because you decided you're a woman, even though you're fully intact male. And so it's a problem and we need to talk about it. But instead, their position more and more, their pushback, their bullshit is it's just not happening. And here's who else is gaslighting us: Democrats and black Democrats. And this is confusing the shit out of me. Black Democrats, male and female, who are otherwise conscious, who are otherwise smart, are actually saying the Republicans are wrong, the conservatives are wrong, this isn't happening. It's a manufactured issue. Manufactured, but people are complaining about it all over the place. There are videos, there are pictures. Why are you trying to pretend we're crazy? That's a problem. That's a huge problem for me because see, here's what's going to happen with the Democrats. They're basically going to create a situation where blacks, in a few years, as we start to wake up, we might just leave that party. Like they don't own us. They don't own us. So we may end up leaving, and I don't think they're ready for that. Their most loyal group. But it's like, stop bullshitting us. You know?
Well, I don't know. I'm almost I kind of, based on our behavior, I almost want to disagree and say I actually think they do own us.
They
Because
do own some of us.
you know what I mean? Because we have not done a good job at all, as a collective, in terms of, making demands, in terms of pushback, the things that the things that they come up with, the things that they tell us. I mean, we're talking about gaslighting. I mean, that's like the ultimate gaslighting, where we have these people who come to us and they say that they need our votes, they want our votes, and then they tell us that, but I'm not actually going to do anything for you. Whatever it is that you need, you can get it through some other program,
Or
other
you
group,
just can't get it.
or you just can't get it. Like that's the ultimate gaslighting. But then that also leads to, sort of my two favorite, and I say that facetiously, sort of forms of gaslighting, or I should say the result of gaslighting. And that's where Black people end up thinking, one, what we see, as you said earlier, is not what we see. Or two, whatever it is that we think we need or don't have or what have you, it's our fault that we don't have it. So
Right,
then it becomes a matter of, so you figure it out.
right, right. And the gaslighting is deep with the Democratic Party because when Ice Cube rolled out and they tried to malign him. Oh, he's a rapper. He's this. Well, first off, he did go to college. I don't know if he finished, but he did go to college. Secondly, he knows how to read. He's a smart brother. He's a businessman who's made a lot of money, done a lot of things that have put him out there. But also, he consulted with two PhDs, two economists. So why is there a conversation about him as opposed to his presentation? But the real gaslighting was for the Democrats to
I,
say,
I'm sorry, because we're
yes,
on, because rappers are only supposed to consult on issues when we shouldn't be marching anymore, and so therefore what we will do is take over the halftime show. Okay, I just had to say that.
That bastard Jay-Z. Yeah, absolutely. That's so appropriate. Yeah, yeah, that's what they're supposed to do. But the gaslighting was for them to say, no, Ice Cube, it's not time. Do this later. Meanwhile, Kamala, this damn turncoat, literally says on the Breakfast Clubs when they ask her, "What are you going to do for black people since you're claiming to be a black candidate? You ski weeing, you're claiming your Howard Bisonness, your chucks and pearls, all of that." And she said, with all of the black girl magic she could muster, neck rolling, "I'm not going to do anything specifically for black people." So I'm like, so you're telling us on the
I
one
caught
hand,
that episode, by the way. So
yeah, yeah, it was dope.
mhm.
So on the one hand, you're telling us wait and we'll do it later, but then she's not waiting until later to tell us I ain't giving you shit. And then you got Biden's old decrepit racist ass. If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Like, like why we got all these messages running around? And it's because I truly believe that they think they own us, and they don't want to let it go. They don't want to let it go. And yeah, you're right. Just says Facebook user. I don't know who that is. I can't see your name. But you're right. Cube discussed that contract with Black America with Democrats and Republicans. And Negroes who are still suckling on the Democratic teat lost their mind. Like, how dare you? Massa say don't go over there. You don't talk to Massa, the other Massa. Don't you escape from this plantation, boy. It was crazy.
Well,
Crazy.
that's such an appropriate analogy because what we as Black people have to understand, and very very specific to politics and these two parties, and that is, they're both plantations. They
They
are both
both
plantations.
of
And the way that the only way that I distinguish between the 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 plantations is that I describe the Republicans as, the plantation with the plantation masses who actually take.
Hey Denise, I don't know if your signal
Oh, okay. I don't know what happened.
we
Okay.
got you back.
Yeah, got me back.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I describe the Republicans as the plantation, um masses who actually take delight in beating us and seeing the whip rip through our flesh. And the Democrats, they want to sip on lemonade on the front porch while someone else does it. So that's really that's really the only difference.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And it's really sad. There's some other issues too that we need to be discussing so that we can kind of, call the Democrats on the carpet because they're gaslighting us and we're gaslighting ourselves because stupid Negroes are repeating the bullshit that these illegal immigrants they taking the jobs the blacks didn't want. We didn't want them jobs. Boss gave them to the people who wanted them jobs. Kiss my ass. Black people were on those jobs when they were stolen from us. We got to stop believing the bullshit. Those jobs were not vacant. They were not vacant. Take that shit up with white people. White people didn't want those jobs, but we were on those jobs. So,
so, well, and that's part of a larger narrative that we keep missing the boat on. Like, we just really will not none of our media, if we even have Black media, because I don't really think we do, except there is Black Republic Media. That's a shout out from my group. But
All right. Indeed. Indeed.
and yourself, brother James, as a journalist. But the narrative that we keep missing, and really understanding how to harness, is very much so what you're saying about this myth that these about these jobs we didn't want, and it speaks to the continuous ongoing devaluing of Black men, because that's who was holding those jobs, right? Black men. And
Absolutely.
it's the same thing when we look at, these minority owned business classifications, which again was a way to push Black men out of holding or owning businesses, because all of that money, I shouldn't say all of it because that's such a sweeping statement, but so much of that money ended up being earmarked for white women.
That's right.
Same
Who
thing with
suddenly
voting.
minorities.
Right.
Yeah.
Same thing with voting. Black men were supposed to get the right to vote before they did. And this is why all of you have these suffragettes and that whole movement and this whole conversation. I should say their conversation about, equality changed real quick. Those some of those women who were supposedly abolitionists, oh, they changed their tunes so quick when Black men were going to get the right to vote. So it continues to be, all of this continues to be a slight against Black men. Like, oh, just, Black men were not politically inclined. That is not true. We have Black men don't vote. No, that's not true. Black men
True.
didn't want these jobs. Oh, that's not true. Like, so all of these things continuously point to Black men. And then as a collective, we're sitting up there repeating, all of these, they're lies, right? And we
Which is
won't,
so sad.
right. And so there's no pushback. And we suffer.
Right.
Not only do our
Absolutely.
men suffer, but we suffer as a collective, because
Right.
what happens when you tell the world that Black men don't vote? What happens when you say that Black men don't want to work? What happens when you say that they don't have any inclination to provide for their families? Like, what happens?
Right.
Well, we see what's happening. We're living it.
We're living it. And that's the thing. It's like externally people are gaslighting us, but we're gaslighting ourselves. Particularly when you start talking about the whole provide piece, I really want to just throw up when I hear Black women say Black men don't provide no more. Well, first of all, inside of marriages, Black men are providing for their families. Black men are not providing for random people on the street who are cute and want to have sex. That, that's never been the case. But more importantly, Black men and women have always been partners. Like that's what got us through slavery, and that's what got us through Jim Crow. And our families started to fall apart when a lot of Black women decided they wanted to be feminists. They wanted to be individuals. And this is what happens. And now the chickens are coming home to roost because now we've got Reginald Hicks. What's up, frat brother? We've got a situation now where there are more Black women over 40 than ever before who are unmarried and without children. So to be out there for 40, almost 50 years saying, I don't need a man, Black men are beneath us, I'm independent, I can do it on my own. And then the last 5 years, I shouldn't have to work. I need a provider. Like, you're psychotic. Something's wrong with you. You're crazy as hell to start saying to Black men, you're failing as a man. No, we're not. In fact, Black men are stepping up in terms of manhood because we are at the top, not the bottom, not the middle, the top of the fathers, the list of fathers who actually spend the most time with their children, who are more involved. That study is from the CDC, not the NAACP or not the LGBT. You know what I'm saying? This is from the CDC. And so for Black women to then try to gaslight brothers because it's not working by saying, oh, you're deadbeat dads, you don't take care of your kids, you're not providing for us, you're not protecting. No, we're doing everything. There are more Black men in prison behind an incident with a woman than anything else. Why? Because they were protecting someone. That's just what we do. But we protect, wait for it, we protect women we love. And that's the problem. So if you're a woman who's just out there in the world, you ain't got no man children who would protect you, you don't have brothers, no dad, nobody in the community that loves you enough to risk it all, that's a you problem. That's a you problem. That's not Black men. We protect the women we care about. And so trying to gaslight us into, somehow thinking, yeah, it's us. We don't protect, because I hear some of these wimpy dudes who are basically men with vaginas or women with penises. I hear these dudes, they're not trans, they're just weird. They're just confused. I hear them repeating the bullshit, and it is gaslighting. We're not abandoning anyone. If we were deadbeat dads and walking away from fatherhood, here's what would happen. You would see the courts where they're deciding child support, those would be filled. And then the courts where they're deciding, the family courts that decide custody, would be empty. But the family courts where men are fighting for custody are filled to the rafters. They're not just trying to avoid child support. They're basically making a real statement, a strong statement, which is, I don't need to pay. Give me the child. If she can't afford it, I can. That's what's the statement that's being made. And so the gaslighting that a lot of our own sisters are participating in is being eaten up. It's delicious for white supremacy. Now's the time where I quote our brother, Dr. Neely Fuller. If you don't understand white supremacy, then everything else about America will confuse you. And so that's why people don't understand how treacherous it is when we hear Black women, our own sisters, saying crazy, false shit about Black men. We do provide for people that we care about. We do protect people that we care about. But if you're just out here, there's no bat signal. We see these videos where people are posting where a Black woman is by herself and she gets beat up or accosted or whatever else. Whoa, where are the Black men? Not with her. She's literally by herself, walking by herself. There's no bat signal where we can shine the shape of Africa in the sky. Oh, when Black women are in trouble, I am not slow. It's hip, 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 and away I go. Like, stop gaslighting us, trying to pretend that we don't like Black women, that we don't protect Black women, because we do. What also happens is we have situations, and I had this in my own family, where we're trying to protect someone who is so out of control that that to continue to try to protect that person will jeopardize your own freedom and safety, right? And I had to disown specifically a family member who had no problem putting me in jeopardy, creating situations that I couldn't control because she wouldn't shut her trap. She would say whatever she wanted, do whatever she wants. One of the Black Panthers, I'm trying to remember which one, but he said, you can't protect what you can't control. And what that means is we cannot protect our community if we can't control the community. If Black women are going to do what they want to do and go where they want to go and put themselves in danger, if they want to put their children out there. You have no man, no manly presence, and now your children are in jeopardy. You can't blame black men. You just can't. You know, you can't have 70% of our community, 70% of our children being raised by single mothers and then blame black men for the result. You can't, because we're not, walking away. We're being pushed out. They're fighting. I mean, these women are fighting. We see it in the news all the time. Dave Fine, what's up, brother? We see it in the news all the time. We see these women are out here. They're looking for a payday, and that's not all. Of course, not all, but enough where the problem is not squarely on the shoulders of black men. We also have sisters who are married. This is the other side. We also have sisters who are, married and then they get divorced or they're widowed. So there are some reasons for a lot of these sisters who are single parents outside of just being, a treacherous person. But I'm sorry, a lot of these single mothers, they're treacherous people. They're treacherous because even if you don't like that dude, you should try to work it out to keep him involved. Why is it connected to you were a day late on your child support? You won't be seeing Lil Do Dirt next weekend. And why are the courts allowing that? Right? And then we're being gaslit they're pretending it's all on us. That's a problem. That's a problem. And it's a problem that we got to start talking about because we got to do something about it because we're in trouble. We're in trouble. And I don't know how we're gonna get out of this, Denise.
you you said that like I might have an answer.
Well, I thought you were gonna black girl magic the whole thing, and
Yeah.
and
Um,
and
I,
put us
I,
together.
I wish I could. I really wish I could. But I wanna speak to this because I call it the manufactured gender war, right? And I
Yes,
absolutely agree that we have enough empirical data that we understand that there is um, some behavior that is practiced by enough black women in our collective that it is problematic uh, for black men and for black children and for our collective in general. Um, but the other thing that I'm seeing though, because I'm all for the pushback. I think that anybody in the black collective that is seeing this, is experiencing it, call it out. We have to call it out. We cannot stand idly by and watch. We have to talk about it. We have to be able to call it out. And not in that we're trying to demonize anybody, but we're saying, you and your behavior and what you're doing, it is problematic, and this is why it's problematic. And we have now seen this historically over decades, right? So this isn't a fluke anymore.
that's right.
It's not one off. But here's another um sort of way that I think we're being gaslit, particularly with this manufactured gender war. Now, I am all for the pushback from brothers. Pushback, right?
Yeah,
But somewhere in the pushback, right, there has become this narrative that just is really emerging where there is no conversation that is a positive conversation about black women.
yeah,
It's it is really bad. Like you don't it's almost like black women in general have no value, and and
I've
and we
seen
know,
that.
that that's not true.
Not the case.
and
Not
and
the
we
case.
have to be able to, and it's not even so matter of needing these brothers to say, to preface everything with, well, not all sisters. No, don't need you to do that, because I think we're all adults and we understand that it's not all sisters. But the
Right.
conversations that they are having and the influence that they and the reach that they have, it's almost as if the conversations mirror the very conversations that Black women have been having about
Right.
Black men, and we know those are problematic. And
Yeah.
why are so is that can't be the answer to this manufactured gender war. That can't be the answer to us figuring out how we're going to reclaim each other and rebuild our families. So for instance, I give you an example. I saw a post today and it tickled me, and it was about Cornell West. It was a picture of Cornell West and his wife. Now I don't know. She looks like she may be Arab. I don't know.
Yeah. That's what
But
she looks like.
yeah, and and so the post was something to the effect, "However, brothers can find peace." Okay. The subsequent post within the post, or comments within, I should say, the post, was that even Cornell West, as Mr. Black himself,
Yeah.
doesn't want an African American woman, doesn't want to deal with her. And I thought, you know what? Listen, I don't really care who Cornell West marries. That's his business. Whatever makes him happy. But what really bothered me and disturbed me is we're saying this, right? That here you have this man who, as pro-Black as he is so tired of Black women that even he's not dealing with it. Well, if you're going to make that your narrative, you really need to rethink who you're using,
What
right?
icon you're going to use
Right.
to try to
Because
make such a
because you
crazy statement.
right to make such a crazy statement. But not only that, the only reason you're making these statements is because it pushes the narrative that the collective of Black women, and what we consider indigenous Black women, indigenous to the United States rather,
Yes.
are have no value. And here you have a man, God bless you, Cornell West, because it doesn't change my opinion about his work and his worth, and his vision for the Black community. But the brother been married 5 times, right?
Right.
So so
Right.
and hey, his children have been born into wedlock. So I ain't got no problem with it. But what I'm saying is, don't use him. First of all, it's not even fair to him. But secondly, and it's not fair to Black women.
Yeah, you're starting to break up a little bit, Denise. So, but let me say this. I think, and I'm not saying it's okay because it is not okay, but I think by way of explaining why some of these male bitches are going for the jugular of Black women, it is because these are equal and opposite uh, entities. These are, we used to always say these Black women who hate Black men, they've been hurt. They probably didn't have a father. They're angry. It's emotional. Well, some of these so called men are also hurt. These are people who, and Dr. Francis Cress Welsing and Scheherazade Ali both pointed out that when these boys are being raised by women with no male participation, no male influence, they become like women. They can't manage their emotions. They're overly emotional. So, two things happen. Number one, that's why we see a lot of violence from these young Black men who have been raised by women with no male influence. They don't know how to manage their emotions. So, when a woman is overly emotional, you're typically not going to get, although you're seeing more now, you're typically not going to see violence as the immediate response. But when you have a person who is in a male body who has the emotions of a woman, women aren't scared. Women will fight. Women will jump up. They'll do. They're not, because typically they're not going to do a lot of damage. They're probably not going to get as damaged. That's what we used to think. But now they have weapons. They're vicious. But it's worse when it comes to a man, because you can't control your emotions. You're 6'2". Now there's gonna be blood. Wasn't that the movie? There will be blood. And so that's where a lot is coming from. A lot of these men who have been hurt, they have been emotionally damaged, damn near destroyed by the women they tried to love. Those women have probably used the children to further destroy them. These are men who are just beaten and destroyed. And so now they're taking it out. They're on a podcast, or they're in a group on social media that is part of the manosphere, and they're saying some really horrible stuff. And that's not the answer either. That's not the answer. I mean, one of the things that I take, deep umbrage with is when they start saying and making all of this crazy conjecture about single mothers. Don't date single mothers. Only a simp would take a child, as his own and be a stepfather. And I'm like, look, dude, I'm a stepson. So, go to hell. That shit worked for me. I'm saying that's where it's coming from, that emotional destruction. But we gotta start to manage it, because it can't be all women against all men, in the Black community. It's just not real. Now, we can't gaslight each other and pretend that's not happening, because it is happening.
Yeah.
It's just not all. That's the that's the gaslight lighting. That it's all or nothing. That's not happening. We got to stop that. We
Oh,
got
we
we,
really have to, to stop it. I was, and this is obviously anecdotal, but, but anecdotal stuff is important too. You know,
mm-hmm.
at my daughter graduated from 8th grade this Sunday.
Woo-hoo!
You and so my older sons attended, and a friend um, captured a picture of us in the church, and it was with my mom, and we were just standing off to the side, so it wasn't even really posed for, but it was with my mother, myself, my younger son, his intended, my older son, and his intended. And I took a look at that picture, and it just gave me so much pride,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Um because my sons have been raised um by me, a single mother, but they have, just incredible, obviously an incredible connection with their father, and they know the hand of other Black men, my stepfather, God rest his soul. So their uncles, so they have not been without that male influence, and and that has also shaped how they view Black women. And so they have uh these wonderful young women who just, they put smiles on my son's faces. They're sweet.
that's
um
dope.
they're not high maintenance. They're supportive. They understand partnerships. My sons aren't going out sending people to the beauty shop and the nail shop and buying designer bags. They're not doing any of that. And so
Yeah,
it's delightful to see, but it's also so encouraging, and it's a reminder that yes, we are still very much capable of holding on to each other. First of all, identifying each other and
yes,
holding on to each other and having a vision of creating family, of creating community.
Absolutely.
Because you and I talked about this, early on, and that was one of the first things that I told my sons. The most revolutionary thing that they could do was to marry Black women, have some Black babies, and live in a Black community. And
Absolutely.
they're taking that to heart. So we
Yeah.
have we have to understand collectively that it's not over, right? It's
Well,
not, and we
well,
can find each other again.
that's right. Well, let's talk about the power in what you were saying, because it's always been there. It isn't new. The power in a woman who finds herself without a mate in the home is to be able to put manly figures in front of their children. My my mom had 8 kids of her own, uh, and she married a man who came into the house and brought his check home to her and her kids. And I was the last one. And when I was 15, he died. Cancer took him from us. My mother didn't flip out, woe is me. She got on the phone. She called my biological dad, told him to get his ass over there, called my older brothers. They were coming by. She went to the school. I was an ROTC. She talked to my senior military instructor and the vice principal. She said, if you see him out of line, you snatch his little ass up and put your foot in his ass. Do I need to sign something? She's like, do that and then call me. She created a community that surrounded me. People coming by the house to check on me, Sergeant Willis and Mr. Horton coming in the classroom, what you doing, and it helped me to turn everything around, because I was slip sliding away. Them streets were calling me, and I was about to answer. And and then I'll give my own in the reverse, because a lot of brothers are doing this. There are a lot of single fathers who find themselves single fathers for whatever reason, But with me, my son's mother was just not fit to be a parent, and so I won that battle. But I didn't just say, "Oh yeah, he doesn't need her because she's abusive." I made sure that I created a community of sweet, feminine women who love him because they love him. In addition, whatever school he's in, there are always women who identify him and just love him. They don't know that he doesn't have a mother in his life. They just lean in to just loving that boy. And so there's a community. He's going to be okay because there's a community of Black women who are sweet and who love him simply because he exists. And I think we have to continue to push that and let people know that that exists, and stop pretending that it's so as much hostility all the way down the line as we can muster up. It's just not. I would even venture to say that these psycho female and male dogs who are out here throwing hate are really in the minority, but they're so loud, especially with social media. Now they got podcasts, so they can say all of this vicious, crazy shit. A friend of mine always says, "Yeah, social media has changed people. People are different." I'm like, no, 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 no. People are the same. What social media has done, it has allowed people to find their people, and that's the intellectuals and the psychotic morons. Everybody is finding their people. So you see these podcasts of evil people, male or female, who don't like Black people, and you assume that there's just a huge movement, and that's just people finding their people. that's that's what that is.
I mean, that's exactly what it is. But the interesting thing is, with them being loud, is that it's really amplified by the fact that our mainstream media says the same thing, especially when it comes to Black men. The mainstream media is saying the same thing. And so you have these messages that are just amplified. Our and when I say intellectuals, I mean our academies are saying the same thing. So
Absolutely.
all of this foolishness that you hear is being amplified.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's the shame. And I think that that's why Black people have to get to the point where we return to community, because we don't have a community now. We're just a ragtag band of sorry ass people who don't think alike, don't, we just don't function as a community, and we need to return to that. And I hope my brother, my frat brother Reginald Hicks, is still on the broadcast, because he and I had a really really beautiful conversation the other day. Because I was all gloom and doom. Yeah, these organizations, they're fucked up. This is bad. That's bad. We got to start something new. He's like, no, we don't. We just need to take them back. Boom. That's real talk. We need to take them back. We need to
Mic
take,
drop.
huh?
Mic drop.
Mic drop. We need to take everything back. We need to serve notice to all the organizations, all the churches, all these entities. You are derelict in your duty. We are serving notice that either you start to perform your function or you get the hell out of Dodge, because we're coming to take over. That's all the NAACP, the Urban League, the fraternities, the churches. That's the Jack and Jill, all everything. They're all out of line. We got to stop letting, and this is a sore spot for me. Stop letting Black women get these grants to run mentoring organizations for Black boys, because what they're doing, and I know this firsthand because I had a woman who brought me in as the director for a mentoring program. I go out and she couldn't find 10 people. I go out and I got 70 something brothers ready to come in, be mentors. I do a meet and greet with them and the mentees. We are doing pancakes, bacon, and I let the chick know, I know this is your situation, but if I'm going to do this, it's all men. I don't need you to show up. You don't have to spy, nothing. And she brought her and her girl, and they came in there and started trying to take over. These are the things that men have to fight back. You got to fight back. Take your child, go to court, fight, do whatever you need to do. Change your job, don't have a job, get a new job, whatever you need to do. You have to. I said it to my son's mother when he was like a month old. I said, I am not going to be a weekend father. I will not pay child support. I will support my child. And if you fuck with me, I will fight you till hell freezes over and fight your ass on the ice. Nathaniel Allison Murray, one of our beloved founders of Alpha Phi Alpha. Yeah, that's where we get the ice baby
Oh,
uh,
all
from.
right.
you
Okay.
know but I made it clear, like, I'll change my life, I'll do whatever. And I told other people, I couldn't say it out loud, but I was like, shit, if I lose, we'll be in Botswana land as Mobutu and Mobutu Jr. Like, you can't have him.
Right.
You can't,
Cuba got too, you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean it's that real, especially when you're talking about raising Black boys, because I see, and I use this word because I don't want to have to use anything harsher and really get beat, but you see um a lot of Black mothers doing some really silly things with
yeah,
boys, whether it's, you look up and they've dyed their hair blonde. I'm like, why?
yeah,
Why?
just goofy
Um,
shit.
just goofy stuff. They're painting their nails. Why? Why? Um,
Yeah,
so we just have to really, when we talk about, parenting of Black boys, we and I can't stress it enough, especially as the mother of Black sons. We have to be so deliberate as single mothers. We
yes,
have to be so deliberate about how we raise these children. You can't be silly about it. You can't
Right.
be silly about it, because otherwise you place them in jeopardy. And we have to be very real about that. We place them in jeopardy for so many different things. And um so yeah.
Well, and it's the reason why we're having so many problems because I remember back in the '80s there was a whole motto that was true then, true now, and has become we've seen the wreckage, the destruction. It was these mothers are raising their daughters and loving their sons. And that sounds beautiful, except they're not. It's not beautiful because they're preparing their daughters for the world. They're preparing them to do all the things that, grown folks need to do, which is why more black women were going to college. They were loving their sons like, oh, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. I got you, little boo boo. Don't worry about this, which is why you had so many black men coming into adulthood who were just crippled, don't know how to function, don't know what to do. You don't have the emotional fortitude, the intestinal fortitude to stand up and do anything. And so now that there is a movement of black men to stand up and take the community back and guide the community, black men have to be careful about who stands up because some of these so-called men are just empty, weak, pie back bitches who don't need to lead anything. I mean, when you are a so-called man, and the only way you can, pose as a man is by pandering to women and telling them, "Yeah, you're right. You deserve this. You deserve that." Well, that's not manly. As a man, I catch hell for saying the things that I say to black women, but I say it because number one, I love them enough to tell them the truth. But number two, I'm not fucking scared. And I'll be damned if I'm gonna be afraid of an entity that's supposed to be my natural mate. You're not gonna get me to be afraid of you. Now, if you as an individual are psycho, I'm gonna get the hell away from you. But I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid. My solution is just me. I'm not mad at the brothers who have decided to step outside of the community, outside of the race, whatever your solution is as an individual. But I am going to this summer, I'm doing a documentary. I was just doing it personally, but I decided because a couple of people have told me, oh, be sure you film it. And now I'm going to do it, make it broader than just me. I'm going on a fact finding mission through the South because with black people in the South and in some parts of the Midwest, we still have tradition and culture. And so my thing is, I'm going to find myself a woman who is under 40, who is sweet, smart, feminine, has a father in her life, of course, black. Because I think that there are a number of ways for black men to interact with black women and increase the likelihood that we'll pair. Increase the like, and that likelihood that will be increased isn't based on just keep rolling the dice. It's not based on saying yes, I'll be a provider, you don't have to work. That's insane. It is based on going back to who we are. We are a conservative people, we are a traditional people. And when we have Preston James, what's up, big brother? And when we have the opportunity to be in front of a black woman who is all the things that we want, we can get together and we can start to pair and mating it. So I'm going to do it as a documentary because older brothers can see it and say, "Damn, I can do that." But also, I want the younger brothers to see it and go, "Okay, cool, cool. This is what I should look for in a woman. This is how I can increase my chances." Now, if I don't find it down south, I'll try North Carolina after that. But if I don't find it down south, yeah, I'll be in Africa. I'll be in Puerto Rico. I'll be in the Dominican Republic. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I've talked shit about dating outside the race, and I can't see it. I
Yeah,
can't see it happening.
I can't see it either. But that's an important documentary for sisters to see as well, because
Mhm.
there there's this idea that there are no black men is a myth. We know
Absolutely.
to say that it's a lie. So we know that there are black men out there. Um, and so what, the conversation that we should be having, and if you're, getting back to tradition, getting back to our culture and who we are, is understanding, as I've often said, right, that the challenge that black women have is that we are so busy trying to tell black men their role that we don't focus on knowing our role.
How about that? Yep.
And so I think when we get back to understanding our role, right, that we will do so much better, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think we
Wait,
can.
I can see people now trying to Google, is this chick married? What is she talking about? She ain't got no man. No, I don't have one right now, but that's okay. Because
Knowledge is knowledge.
because knowledge is knowledge. Because and it's not because I have some bizarre standards, as what was her name, Ebony said, her standards, whatever. It's not because of that, and it is not because I have not been approached, because I know how to smile, I know how to say hello, I know how to offer a kind word. I
Indeed.
think when we understand that, as black women, right, getting back to the essence of who we are,
And not
like,
womanhood, black womanhood.
right, because
That
there
shines a little brighter.
it is because we are the mold, right? We are who everyone wants to mimic, who everyone has tried to mimic, right? And somehow we have
Mhm.
parted from that. And I think when we come back to that, right, and when we come back to understanding our role, and women are going to get into this idea about, well, I want a man with this, and why can't I have standards? That's not about having standards, because what, when we start talking about those things, and I'm not saying you can't want somebody who isn't educated, but what I am saying is understand who you are. Because if it was just a matter of you wanting someone educated, and then you'd have found somebody who was
Mhm.
educated, right? Right. But there are so many other things that we're missing.
That's
Like I
right.
said, the kindness, right? This wanting to be a partner
Yes.
versus, as one of my sons said, women out here wanting to be a dependent.
Yeah. Pretty
know?
much.
Like,
Yeah.
go back to being the core of who we are. And
You can create whatever you want
and you
together.
you together, like,
Yeah.
together. So I
Yeah.
it's or it'll be an important documentary for us to see as well.
Well. Also, the thing that I plan is to do that documentary and to show people what it actually looks like to be single and looking for black love. But behind that, I want to do a tour of an event that will basically get people to talk about black love. I'm finishing up a book. I did a book years ago and I was on a lecture circuit called Bridging the Black Gender Gap. So I'm going to update that, with real statistics. So I don't want people to say, well, black folk, we used to do. No, 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 no. If you haven't done research, shut up. Hugh P. Newton said, no investigation, no right to speak. And so, yeah, so I want to do an event that will feature dancing and, the arts, but also real discussions, relationship discussions led by people who actually understand what they're doing. I think those are the things, that's that, my contribution. Those are the things that I think can lead us back to community, can lead us back to black love, can lead us back to loving each other, to doing what we need to do, and not just out here with all this chaos and confusion because we're hurt and someone says something about the person that hurt us, so we're agreeing with it, not because it's true but because it makes our hurt feel a little less hurt. We got to get away from that. And so we end up, to kind of wrap this thing up, to go back to where we started, we end up gaslighting each other. We end up saying things that just aren't true. Like black women, how dare you tell men that we don't protect you, that we don't provide? We provide for our families and we protect the women that we love, and some of the viciousness that's coming from black men now, it's starting to look real crazy. Real crazy. It's a little scary, except I understand where it's coming from. So I know as a black man that I can lead it back to someplace good.
Yeah, well, I mean, I mean, I would almost argue that all of it is coming from a place of trauma. I think where black women um, have um, more accountability is that because you just said something just a moment ago about how dare black women say to black men that they're not protectors. Listen, I don't even have a problem with black women saying that to black men. You know what I have a problem with is when
What's
we
that?
say it to the world. Because
Ooh,
if we
yeah,
were just talking to black men, if
yeah,
that was the conversation, then black men could say, you know what, come on, sister, let me tell you something. Sit down on the couch. I want to tell you something, right?
right,
Let me clear something up for you, right? We
yeah,
could do that. But the challenge is that black women have said it to the world.
right.
So what are black men going to do? Because the world ain't putting a mic in front of them.
That's right. They don't
World
want to hear us.
Right. The world ain't interviewing y'all. The world ain't saying write this book. The world ain't giving you a talk show to say, well, let me tell you the truth of the matter is that black women form this allegiance. Like that's not happening.
They don't want to hear that because
Oh,
they created black women's allegiance with
right.
feminism, which is
Right.
informed and instructed by white supremacy.
Yeah. So, we gotta really come back to each other. We gotta stop talking to everybody and start talking to each other. Like these
Right.
conversations, and when I say to each other, I don't mean sisters just talking to sisters, because the only thing you're doing is constantly and more and more just repeating the same things and amen, the whole enchilada of BS, right?
Affirming the bullshit.
Affirming the bullshit. And
Yeah.
now, as you said, we're seeing it with men. Like, we got to stop it. We have to have conversations with each other, and we got to be able to listen.
Well, and I think that what I plan is going to be successful, not just because it's coming from a good place, but because it is based on the only thing that can save us as a race: black love. That's it.
That's the only thing. That's
That's
the only.
all.
That's a T-shirt.
Well, I've been pushing my T-shirts. Black love is the revolution, and this young lady who I actually adore, she's an influencer, and I'm connected to her on Instagram. She actually stole it. So I've got my T-shirt, Black Love is the Revolution, and I saw yesterday she's got it doesn't have a design, it's just words, but yeah, she stole it. Black Love is the Revolution. I'm not super mad because the message, is being passed around, but also I didn't copyright it. I didn't trademark it. So the next one I will though, because but she can have it. Anybody else can have it right now because that message needs to be out there. But let's keep doing this, Denise. Let's keep making it happen. I want to really push it now more than ever. Now that I'm making moves in other areas, I really want
Hey,
this to be to work.
all right.
All
Well,
righty.
find me.
Yes, that's right. Thank you, and thank you to the people who are listening now and the people who are gonna listen. And I'll talk to you. Talk to you later.
Peace and blessings.
Peace. All right.